Kenya's horticulture foreign exchange earnings grew by 4% to 1.37 billion USD in 2021 from 1.31 billion USD in 2020. This sector provides employment opportunities to about 350,000 people directly and supports over 6 million livelihoods.
Horticulture has been contributing greatly to the economy, both directly and indirectly. Looking at the contribution through the transport sector, the refrigeration facilities that different companies have been able to install, the number of women that are used in grading, overall, there is a key contribution in terms of employment. Most of what we export from the country comes from close to 90% of smallholder growers.
This tremendous growth is attributed to several sustainable agricultural practices in the industry, such as increased compliance to international voluntary standards, water stewardship, increased use of IPM methods for pest and disease control, increased use of certified seed to improve quality, increased use of renewable energy such as wind and solar, and increased use of soil enrichment technologies, among others.
The horticulture sector in Kenya is a sector that started very small, but we have grown tremendously because we have very good logistics within our country that serves the region, but also serves us in an area that is able to produce as much wide range of fresh produce, better than many other parts of the world. But most recently, as private sector and government, we are working very closely, and this helps us to understand where we are. If there are challenges that we need, then we are able to have a common approach to it.
We have been able to continue to build the capacity for our members and other stakeholders, and with that improved capacity and skills and knowledge, then we're able to get into new crops, into new lines of cut flowers, into new varieties of vegetables and herbs, so that that together has been able to buttress the kind of growth that you've seen in the recent years.
We do also conduct food safety audits for us to be able to understand what kind of system that our exporters and the producers have implemented and whether they are effective enough to guarantee the safety of produce.
Every time we are studying what the market requires and coming to support the growers here to be able to comply and to respond to the needs of the market. This is an important thing to do because you can be producing a lot, but if you don't meet the requirements of the market, it becomes very difficult.
Speaking to Gideon Aliero, a farmer and an exporter of herbs from Kajiado County, he says that even though there is demand for his fresh produce locally and internationally, he faces several challenges, including high cost of inputs, double taxation from the national and county governments, and strict requirements on pest control products from the international market that keep changing.
Due to the constant review of the molecules in terms of pest protection products put by the international market, it makes it a bit challenging for me as a grower to continue sustainably growing and be into production. And that is what we would want the government also to help us address through the conversation with the international market.
Despite this tremendous growth in value and volume of production, Kenya only exports 4% of its horticulture produce due to a number of reasons. Increased MRL interceptions, non-compliance to quality and safety standards, especially in the domestic market, the effects of climate change, weak traceability systems, high post-harvest losses, and pest pressure in growing areas.
When you look at the export volumes, from around 2000, we are doing around 31,000 metric tons. But as late as 2020, that volume export is reduced to around 14,000 metric tons, partly because of lack of competitiveness of our produce, partly contributed by these MRL's exigencies. Now, what that means is what is now being exported in terms of volume is going down, okay? And again, to our production, it also, narrowing, is kind of slimming. That means that we are not able to produce much, we are not able to export big volumes, and that has an effect in terms of reduced revenues. When you have reduced revenues, then livelihood is affected. Therefore, we can have some job losses and no wealth creation. The main contributor in terms of having increased MRL's contribution is because Kenya, we are having some products that are registered and are available for farmers for use, but these products are not approved for use by our importing countries. Number two is about the awareness by our farmers in terms of trying to keep up with the pace in terms of knowing what is changing in the world, in the importing markets. For example, if we have a change in EU, how fast our farmers able to get this information and be able to apply and be able to comply with the market requirements.
We recognize that we are in the tropics. We should be able to take care of our pests and diseases in terms of control. But even as we do that, we need to adhere to the pre-harvest intervals and the spray regimes for our pesticides, so that that food that is produced is good for us to consume, and it's good for every market player that then buys the Kenyan origin.
To address some of these critical challenges, industry associations, government and other development partners have carried out a series of capacity building measures, awareness campaigns, focused interventions, and integrated approach on food safety, plant health, traceability, provision of clean planting materials, new product development, and value addition in order to improve market access locally and internationally.
We are looking at matters to do with plant health and the use of pesticides, what we're going to do. So we have also developed a different action plan around that with different players and their role that they will play in being able to surmount this.
We have been able to develop a code of practice for horticulture, the Kenya Standard 1758, and this gives an elaborate mechanism in which food safety issues should be handled, environmental sustainability, workers' health and safety, so that what we grow and produce both for the domestic market and for export then meets the bare minimum requirements in terms of safety and sustainability.
To ensure that the sector remains sustainable and competitive going forward, there is need for industry players to promote the use of innovative technologies across value chains.
In order to improve competitiveness and sustainability in our sector, we must be able to pay attention to due processes, traceability, quality control, and improve transparency and ethics on how we conduct our business as growers and exporters in Kenya.
While we acknowledge the formation of the National Horticulture Task Force, which is headed by the private sector, we would like the government to just look at its policies so that it can amalgamate some of this work done by various government agencies into one, so that we avoid duplication, which in turn increases the cost for me as a farmer.